I want to go back to the royal scandals now, Sophie, and these revelations that the former Prince Andrew used to have prostitutes coming to Buckingham Palace.
For years, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, once widely known as Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, lived a life surrounded by extraordinary privilege, wealth, and royal prestige. As the second son of Queen Elizabeth II, he grew up in a world that very few people on Earth could ever imagine. Grand palaces, royal ceremonies, global influence, and constant public attention were simply part of everyday life. During the height of his royal career, Andrew was often seen as one of the most powerful and visible members of the British royal family. He served in the Royal Navy, represented Britain on the international stage, and carried the prestige of a prince whose connections opened doors across governments, corporations, and global elites. But over time, the image that once appeared polished and untouchable began to crack. Behind the royal titles, behind the ceremonial duties, and behind the carefully controlled public image of the monarchy, a very different story slowly began to emerge. Allegations, controversies, and uncomfortable questions started to surface, each one gradually eroding the reputation that Andrew had built over decades. Today, the story of Prince Andrew is no longer one of royal service or public duty. Instead, it has become one of the most dramatic and controversial downfalls in modern royal history. A fall from grace that continues to raise difficult questions about power, privilege, and accountability inside the British monarchy. One of the most troubling chapters in that story begins in 2001, when Andrew was appointed as the United Kingdom's Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, commonly referred to as the UK's Trade Envoy. At the time, the role was considered highly prestigious. Andrew's job was to travel around the world representing British business interests, building economic relationships with foreign governments, and encouraging investment into the United Kingdom. In theory, the position allowed him to act as a kind of global ambassador for British industry, someone who could use royal influence to open doors for trade deals and international partnerships.
And now there's these allegations that he had prostitutes in at Buckingham Palace and that his late mother did know about it. And these reports emerged from the author of the new book entitled Andrew Lowney, a British author and historian who I spoke to in detail.
But according to several royal historians, investigative journalists, and former insiders, Andrew's time in that position may not have always reflected the responsibilities expected of someone representing the British government. Some critics claim that instead of focusing solely on diplomacy and trade, Andrew allegedly treated parts of the role as an opportunity to enjoy the extraordinary luxuries that came with royal travel. And one particular trip has drawn especially intense scrutiny. During an official taxpayer-funded visit to Thailand, Andrew reportedly attended high-profile celebrations connected to the Thai royal family. Officially, the visit was meant to strengthen diplomatic and economic relationships between Britain and Thailand. But according to claims discussed by historians and investigative reporters, the visit may have included far more than formal meetings and ceremonial appearances. Reports suggest that Andrew insisted on staying at an exclusive five-star luxury hotel rather than the British Embassy residence that would normally host visiting officials. Even more controversially, sources claim he extended his stay beyond the official diplomatic schedule.
He has like 40 teddy bears that have to be assembled and arranged perfectly. Staff are given a chart to arrange Prince Andrew's teddy bears on his bed every day. So there's quirky stuff, but there's also just stuff in there about how, especially in recent years since he's left the royal family, that he takes it out on staff because he is in isolation, he is in this sprawling property.
Adding additional private days that were not directly connected to his formal duties. While extended stays during overseas visits were not unheard of, critics argue that this particular trip raised serious concerns about the blurred lines between official diplomacy and personal indulgence. And then came the allegation that truly shocked observers. According to claims discussed in investigative reports and historical accounts, dozens of women were allegedly brought to Andrew's luxury hotel suite during the trip. While these claims remain controversial and strongly debated, they have continued to circulate in books, podcasts, and media investigations, examining Andrew's conduct during his years representing Britain abroad. For critics, these allegations were not simply about personal behaviour. They raised a much bigger question: whether someone representing the British government on taxpayer-funded trips had abused that position for personal pleasure. And according to some former insiders, the situation may have been part of a broader pattern. Several former aides and royal staff members have described a working environment where challenging the prince was extremely difficult. Andrew was reportedly known for having a strong temper and for expecting absolute loyalty from the people around him. In such an environment, some staff members claim they felt pressure to remain silent, even when they were uncomfortable with certain decisions or demands. At the same time, Andrew's role as trade envoy also placed him in close contact with wealthy business leaders and international investors. Critics have argued that this created a potentially problematic situation in which personal relationships, business interests, and official diplomatic responsibilities sometimes appeared to overlap. In certain cases, businessmen were reportedly introduced to influential meetings or investment opportunities after gaining access through Andrew's network, raising concerns among watchdog groups about whether the royal connection was being used appropriately. Financial records later revealed that Andrew's overseas travel as trade envoy cost millions of pounds over the years. Some individual trips reportedly reached travel costs of more than £90,000, fueling further debate about whether taxpayers had been funding a lifestyle of luxury rather than purely diplomatic missions. Meanwhile, inside royal residences, stories about Andrew's unusual personal routines also began to surface. Former members of palace staff have spoken publicly about highly specific demands related to daily routines inside his residence. Some describe detailed instructions about how personal belongings should be arranged in his bedroom each day. While such stories might appear eccentric or harmless on the surface, critics argue they reflected a deeper culture inside royal life, one where privilege and authority often went unquestioned for decades. But eventually, the accumulation of scandals became impossible for the monarchy to ignore. Public scrutiny intensified, media investigations multiplied, and the pressure on the royal family to distance itself from the controversy continued to grow. Following years of damaging headlines, Andrew was ultimately stripped of his military titles and royal patronages, effectively ending his role as a working member of the royal family. His public appearances became extremely rare, and the once prominent prince who had represented Britain across the world stage was gradually pushed to the margins of royal life. Even his residence at Royal Lodge in Windsor, a large estate he has occupied for years, has reportedly become a subject of internal royal discussions as King Charles seeks to reshape the monarchy's public image. Today, Andrew is said to live a far more secluded life, largely removed from official duties, royal events, and the public spotlight. Friends and associates have suggested that he remains frustrated about how events unfolded, often believing that he has been unfairly treated by both the media and the institution he once represented. But for many observers, the damage to his reputation is already irreversible. What once looked like a powerful and untouchable royal career has now become one of the most remarkable and controversial collapses the British monarchy has experienced in modern times. And yet, one question continues to linger. How much of the full story has actually been revealed, and how much still remains hidden inside sealed government archives and royal records? Some documents connected to Andrew's years as trade envoy reportedly remain locked away in official files. If those records were ever fully released, they might reveal far more about how royal influence was used behind the scenes, and whether the controversies surrounding Andrew represent isolated incidents or part of a larger, more complicated story. Because in the end, the downfall of Prince Andrew is not just about one man. It is also about the fragile balance between power, privilege, and accountability within one of the world's most famous institutions. And for a monarchy that depends heavily on public trust, that question may prove to be just as important as the scandals themselves. So, what do you think? Was Prince Andrew's downfall inevitable? Should the palace release the sealed trade envoy files so the public can see the full truth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy deep dives into royal history, scandals, and untold stories from inside the monarchy, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.